Welcome to the Bettendorf Public Library's Take Home Workshop. This month, we're doing cross-stitch wall art. We will give you the supplies to do one letter so you can learn the process, but you could purchase fabric and hoops and do a whole line of them. You can do full-on words. You can do different colors. It's really a very versatile craft. It's also good if you've ever wanted to learn how to do counted cross stitch on like Aida cloth. This is a good introduction to how to do cross stitches. It's nice because the stitches are so big, they're really easy to see. So let's take a look and see what is in our kit. So you're going to find a stencil, patterns I guess I should say, for ways to do letters. Now you do not have to do them this way. These are just some examples for how you can do letters when you're working with a grid like this. So we have two-sided, we've got the full alphabet if you choose to use that. You have a 5-inch embroidery hoop. You have a length of navy blue embroidery floss. We're going to be using with the full 6 strands of floss, and you have about 3 yards, which should be more than you actually need, but just to be on the safe side. We have a square of gingham. Now gingham again comes in many colors, so if you want to do this craft again in colors that match your home decor, a fabric store is going to have gingham in different colors, it's going to have floss in different colors, and you can do whatever colors you want. And then lastly, you're going to have in this little straw here, this is how we transport your needles so you don't poke yourself or they don't get lost. So we're just going to snip off the end of that and have a needle come out. So these needles are sharps, so be careful, and they're crewel needles, so they have a bigger eye than your average sewing needle. I will say we could have gone with a needle with a bigger eye, and it probably would have been even a little bit better because getting 6 strands threaded through there is a little tricky, but it can be done. So that's going to be our first step. Let's go ahead and get started. We put the embroidery floss in those kind of loosely knotted skeins to keep it from tangling. Didn't work with mine. Embroidery floss is notorious for once it's out of its skein wanting to knot. So there's nothing to be done for that, just a little patient, we'll get it untangled. Now we're gonna measure out about a yard of this. Like I said, you have about 3 yards. And I'm going to cut the end as neatly as I can because I don't want the end to be all thready and scraggly. I want it to be a nice clean cut because that's going to make it easier to thread my needle. So I'm going to flatten these out as much as possible. A little water, or if we're all being honest, a little spit will help those to stay together to get them through the needle. If you have a needle threader, you might want to give that a go too. Okay, it took me several tries, but I got it. So I'm just going to pull it through, and then at the other end, I'm just going to tie a knot. I have a knotted end and a loose end, so that's ready to go. I'm going to set that aside. And I do like threading my needle right away because otherwise they have a tendency to get lost in my couch. And that can be painful finding those. Now we're going to mount our fabric. So to do that, we're just going to loosen up this screw at the top. Pop this center hoop out, lay our fabric down over it, and then put the hoop back on. Now one thing you want to do, let me rephrase that. One thing you might want to do is make sure that your lines are straight. If you prefer for your letter that you're doing to be like this, put the fabric in crooked. It's entirely up to you. We're going to pull on these tails to get it nice and tight, and then we're going to tighten up the screw at the top here again to keep it in there tight. For embroidery like this, which is basically what this is, a very simple embroidery, we want it tight. The tighter, the better. So there you go. And then we're going to put our pattern on. Now I'm going to use a letter P because I'm eventually going to do BPL for Bettendorf Public Libraries. So you choose whatever letter you want. You don't have to do a letter. If you want to do a heart shape, if you want to do a flower, you have some space here that you can chart it out and you can draw your own design and put it on there. But I'm going to use the letter P, and I'm just going to use a pencil to very lightly X out the squares that I want. So I'm going to start, let's see, we'll try right here. 10, 11, because my pattern is 11 high, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so that'll be the height. And then I'm going to do my second row. If you have a washable marker, fabric marking, pencil, seamstress chalk, anything like that, you're certainly probably not a bad idea to use those. A pencil mark like this is largely going to get covered up as we stitch, and whatever is left, I can either give it a little swish in water and it'll get it through, or I can even use an eraser and it'll usually get rid of it. So I'm fine with using just a plain pencil to mark it. Now, when I'm doing cross stitch like this, I like to start in the upper left-hand corner and kind of work my way down. I like to do it as without jumping as much as possible. So if I were to start here, do this top row, then do the next two, and then jump over to there, I'm going to try and avoid that because I don't want to be able to see thread in that open area. Now this is a dense enough fabric that honestly it's probably not an issue, but if you want to hang something like this in a window, it would be a factor. So we are going to start, and what we're going to do is we're going to come up from the bottom in the bottom left corner of this top left square. So we're just going to come up just like that. I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit and see if we can't see that even better. So I'm coming up there and just pulling through, and because I knotted my fabric, when it gets to the end it'll stop. Now I'm going to go down in the top right hand corner. And there's the first part of your first X. Now I could go ahead and finish my X and then go on to the next stitch, but when I have stitches in a row like this that are right adjacent to each other, I'm going to do all of one stroke and then go back and do the other stroke. The secret to cross stitch, to good cross stitch, is consistency. Consistency in the tension of your stitches and consistency in the direction that your stitches go. So if you wanted to reverse this and do the upper left to lower right stitches first, you can, so long as all of your stitches go the same way at the same time. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but you want the bottom stitch of your X to always be going in the same direction and the top stitch of your X. Okay, so we've done all 4 of those, and now we're going to go back and we're going to come up at the bottom right and go down at the top left. And if you right next to or even through the same hole that the thread had came up out of. So I don't think I got my hoop quite tight enough, but you'll see as you do this, you want to pull it tight. You want your threads to be flat against your fabric, but you don't want to pull it so hard that you're drawing up the fabric and puckering it up. So there's my top row. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do all of this. this big downward stroke of my letter P. So I'm going to do 2 stitches, 2 stitches, 2 stitches all the way down. And then I'll come back and work these around 1 stitch at a time in a circle. And again, that's to keep from having big jumps in the back that could potentially show up when you go to hang it. So you see I've made it down to this center cross stroke, and I'm going ahead and I'm doing the 4 stitches again. Because again, I have 4 stitches that are adjacent to each other. And so this is not an area where I have to worry about it making a jump or anything like that. I can just do another row of 4, and then I'm going to keep going with my rows of 2 to finish the rest of my big downstroke. Remember what I said about floss wanting to knot? There it goes again. It will also twist as you go, so sometimes I just pick my hoop up and just kind of let it dangle, and it'll untwist itself, and that kind of keeps it from knotting a little bit. I'm getting down to the end of my thread here, and I could probably get another stitch or 2 out of this, but I'm going to leave a long enough tail that it makes it easy for me to make another knot. So I'm going to go to bring it around to the back. And then I'm just going to loop it through and make a knot. And if I pull it so that the loop I make, I'm going to take the needle out of there. It's right down tight against the fabric, and then I put my finger on it and I pull. Not unlike putting a ribbon on a present. If you're wrapping a present and you need a finger, you need to grab somebody else in your household. And if you do it too tight, then you won't be able to work through. But then you're going to have a knot there, just like that. And you take your scissors and just snip it off. And then, since I have a ways to go yet, I'm going to cut myself another length of floss, my knotted floss here. I'm going to get it unknotted, cut myself a new length of floss, and then I'm going to keep going. As you can see, I finished my downward stroke, and now I'm going to go ahead and finish these last 4 here that are going to finish off my letter P. To finish this off for display, you have, as we always like to do, you have options. So you can just leave it in the hoop, and you can just hang the hoop. You would trim off this extra fabric so it's not hanging, trim it right down to the hoop, and you can hang it that way. If you're going to do that, you might want to, before you trim the fabric, take it out of the hoop, run a little bit of glue around the inside of the hoop and kind of glue it into the frame so that it doesn't lose its tension or shift or anything over time. And then you can decorate the hoop, you can cover it with ribbon, you could paint it, whatever you'd like. And if you want, you can cover the back with a piece of felt, a piece of craft foam, even a piece of cardstock if you'd like. Just tidy it up a little bit. You could also take your fabric out and do something else with it. If you're a quilter, you could put it into a quilt piece. You could applique it onto something, onto a tote bag or something like that. Anything like that that you would use a regular piece of fabric for, you could certainly use this for too. I'm going to finish that off by making my knot. And tightening it up a little bit. So the first one I did just trim down to there. This one I have not done yet, and I don't have my good, let me zoom out a little bit. There we go, so you can see the difference. I trimmed that one down. This one, I don't have my good fabric scissors with me, so it'll have to wait. But there you go. I've got my B, my P, I just need my L for library. We would love to see your cross-stitch wall art. I especially would like to see it if you put your own spin on it with different fabric or different colors. You can do this on any fabric. It doesn't have to be on a gingham. The gingham just makes it really, really easy because the checks are there. But if you get good at doing the cross stitches and you can achieve that sort of consistency, you could do it on anything. So send us your pictures, share it with us on social media, and we'd like to thank the Bettendorf Public Library Foundation and Quad City Bank and Trust for sponsoring this take-home workshop.